Professor Lupo and His Horrible Pets is a quirky, story-driven puzzle game developed by BeauitFun Games. Built with a mouse and keyboard in mind, you gotta respect the amount of work that the team put into making the Switch version playable in virtually any configuration you can think of, even if the final results aren't exactly perfect. Playing entirely with the analog sticks and buttons isn't always the right call. Yeah, moving around and handling the camera feel best this way. But remote-controlled switches that you target will change automatically based on where you're moving or facing. And in a stressful situation, I've accidentally hit the wrong one, causing unintentional deaths countless times. Motion-based pointer controls are useful when you need to click on multiple specific points in a short amount of time, but I found the tracking inconsistent, causing the pointer to go off-center in just a few swipes. And in some instances, it would endlessly drift to the side even if I was holding the controller perfectly still. I'm not sure what's up with that. In handheld mode, you can use the touchscreen to tap exactly where you want to go and what you want to activate. And this works like a charm, even though I'm not the biggest fan of moving around with taps, so ultimately my hands end up in a weird claw position to get the best of both worlds. While none of these gameplay options are perfect, I sincerely appreciate that they exist. It allows every player to decide which control scheme works best for them. The game's titular character, Professor Lupo, runs the Aurora space station, a massive vessel filled with a variety of alien monsters. Well, really only a couple, but by mixing and matching them in 100 unique levels, you get a lot of puzzle variety out of them. You play as an unassuming, balding, middle-aged intern whose name is, well, Intern.
You know what? I still don't know your name.
Me? They've called me intern so long that I don't remember.
And I think this is a strange choice for the game's protagonist. There's not really much to the guy, aside from his unfortunate hair. Anyways, you quickly find that Professor Lupo has zero regard for the safety of his employees when a militant group called Blue Ragnarok attacks the station, releasing Lupo's monsters. With the intern's knowledge of each creature's behavior patterns, and a whole lot of trial and error, you must maneuver from room to room, making your way to the escape pods. But that may not be as easy as it sounds, and there are plenty of twists and turns along the way.
We, the Blue Ragnarok, declare everything that happened here illegal. You're all now detained.
The voice acting is, well, let's call it rough, and the game's goofy attempts at humor fall flat more often than not. But after enough time with the game, I'll be honest, I did start to settle in and admittedly appreciated some of its charm.
I wish you both good luck, and that you die.
I'll just get this out of the way. Professor Lupo is not a great looking game. There's a general lack of consistency in both quality and style. The somewhat realistic environments and backgrounds clash against the cartoony character design, and not much of what's on screen looks or feels cohesive to me. It's a mishmash of art styles. Interactable buttons and the doors that they affect are highlighted by these garish dots. I get that it's important for the player to see these clearly, but how much more interesting would it be if these were woven into the design of the world instead? Like, instead of a big red blob to show that this door is tied to this panel, what if the console emitted a bright red glow and the door had a matching light mounted to it? Something simple like that could go a long way in making Professor Lupo's visuals more cohesive. Characters animate well enough that you understand what's going on, but it stops there. This is especially noticeable during dialogue-heavy segments, where characters go through a variety of emotions, yet their faces and bodies are frozen, without much more than a simple mouth swap and a wiggle of their brow, while the camera zooms in and out every now and then. Come on, you can do better than this.
Damn it! Intern, get out of this, please!
On the flip side, every alien is introduced with a brief but pretty nicely animated clip that really shines. If the rest of the game maintained this level of visual polish, I would likely be singing its praises right now. Now that I've gotten my criticisms out of the way, let's talk about where this game truly shines: the puzzle design. Like I mentioned earlier, every one of Lupo's pets comes with their own set of quirks and behaviors to understand and exploit. Learning these is fundamental to your success, and lucky for you, the intern keeps and updates an archive of everything that he knows as you progress through the game. I'll admit, the game and I got off to a rocky start. I found myself stuck for way too long on multiple occasions, and the issue almost always ended up being that I didn't understand something about the monster's behavior. For instance, the Vermis is a giant worm that needs 4 blocks of space to turn himself around. They can sense you through walls if you're close enough and will blindly go in your direction, never thinking too critically about whether or not they're going to get themselves stuck. Sagittas are these freaky, rolling ball monsters that start coming right towards you the second that they sense you. But it wasn't until much later in the game that I realized the note in the archives about how they're blind while rolling meant that their route is locked to the place that you were standing before they started moving. With that power, I realized that with good timing, I could make short work of these guys and just step out of their way as long as I didn't trap myself. In time, you'll become a master of the ins and outs of Professor Lupo, and I found that the first 2 chapters were infinitely harder for me to crack than the rest. Like all the best puzzle games, once you get into the groove and truly understand the gameplay, conquering room after room is incredibly rewarding. Every level also has at least one optional objective for those looking for an extra challenge. Accomplishing all of these unlocks the true ending. My time with Professor Lupo and his horrible pets had a few pain points, particularly one of the game's bosses who turns a few of the levels into a nightmarish, frantic race against the clock where you're forced to just fail over and over again until you figure out what the hell the game wants you to do. But those moments aside, I was surprised by how creative and thoughtful the creatures and puzzles built around them were. Working my way through these puzzles was deeply satisfying, in spite of where the game may have fallen short in other regards. I mean, I'll be honest, even after posting this review, I'm still planning to go back and revisit all the levels that I still have challenges left to conquer. Professor Lupo and his horrible pets has plenty of room for improvement, but I gotta give it credit where it's due in regards to its excellent puzzle design. And that's ultimately where this game lives or dies. And that's why I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5.